I'm having a chat with LORDPYROMON. Would you like to introduce yourself?
I'm Lord Pyromon. Other people also just call me Pyro. Some people call me James. Yeah, my channel name is Lord Pyromon. I complain about video games on the internet. That's basically what I do.
Don't we?
Uh, yeah.
How did you get started on YouTube? Were you just like, I'm tired of complaining to myself. I need to complain to some other people.
Okay. Yeah. Oh gosh, I started YouTube like probably. I've been doing YouTube for probably like half my life at this point because I started probably when I was in like eighth grade. I remember because I grew up like watching like Smosh and all this other stuff, and I was like, this looks so cool. I'd love to be able to like just go on this website and just kind of do whatever. And at some point, I started watching this YouTuber Alpha Omega Sin, and his whole thing was yelling at a camera, complaining about video games. And I was like, yes, I found my calling.
So you found
Uh,
it before the Angry Video Game Nerd?
I found Alpha Omega Sin before I found the Angry Video Game Nerd. Yeah, I didn't find AVGN until like probably junior year of high school, which is surprising. Like I think I before watching AVGN, I think I actually discovered like JonTron and Cat Icarus beforehand. I got really big on their stuff. So,
I think they were like the two people that I found. Like I found first I knew Ego Raptor from back in the Newgrounds days. Then
oh,
Raptor got me hooked on JonTron, and then JonTron introduced me to like normal boots and then hidden block, and then it just exploded from there.
I think I did discover. I think it's hard to really like put the timeline of perspective in my head, but I'm pretty sure I did discover JonTron through Ego Raptor as well.
Mhm. So how did you come up with the name Lord Pyromon?
Okay, so when I was a wee lad, I was a really big fan of Digimon, and I still am to this day. And I had a Digimon OC called Pyromon. And I used to frequent a lot of Digimon fan forums back in the day. And on all of those Digimon fan forums, my username was Lord Pyromon. And after a while, it just kind of became like my username on every forum. It became my Xbox Live profile name, and it just kind of I ended up using it on YouTube as well because it was just what I use as my username on everything. So
Do you prefer Digimon to Pokemon?
at this point, yes, pretty much, yeah.
Not back in the day.
I I used to flip flop. I used to be like, because I liked both of them, but nowadays I feel like the the games just aren't up to snuff anymore, and I really enjoy like the Cyber Sleuth games and stuff like that. So I really think that Digimon has kind of overtaken Pokemon in every facet in my mind.
I'm curious, what's your favorite Digimon game and what's your favorite Pokemon game?
Ooh, oh, that's a really tough one. I think my favorite Digimon game is probably Cyber Sleuth. I know you interviewed Crantime. I watched your Crantime interview, and I already knew that he was not a big fan of Cyber Sleuth, and his whole thing is like it's just an RPG that happens to have Digimon in it, and to my knowledge, and in my mind, I'm kind of like, well, yeah, but that's what I like. I like that it's just like an average RPG, but with Digimon in it. I don't know. I want it's a more traditional experience. And I just like kind of that cyberpunk. I'm a big fan of like cyberpunk stuff as well, and it kind of emphasizes that cyberpunk element of Digimon. So I don't know. Cyber Sleuth is really cool. I like it. And then Pokemon. I I'm gonna have to say Heart Gold, but like Legends Arceus is pretty close. I really like what Legends Arceus did with the Pokemon kind of universe. I like kind of the I don't know if I can call it Dark Soulsy, but like kind of just like that more survival esque element to it that I kind of think really complements Pokemon. But like when it comes to like traditional Pokemon, Heart Gold, Soul Silver, I think is my favorite.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with Gen 2, especially the remakes. It's like it really did peak there, in my opinion. Even
Oh, definitely.
I don't know if I'd call them my personal favorites. I feel like objectively it kind of peaked there.
Yeah.
So you mentioned some that you prefer more traditional RPGs. Do you have a favorite RPG?
Gosh, that is a loaded question. I
Or favorites
feel
or
like when it comes to RPGs in general, like because like there are so many different kinds of RPGs. There are JRPGs, there are CRPGs, there are open world action RPGs. So it's really hard to like say like what is my favorite RPG.
what is a CRPG?
Oh, computer RPG.
Oh,
That's
okay.
like Baldur's Gate, Pillars of Eternity, stuff like that. Diablo. Um, I think I think my favorite RPG, if we're just talking every single different version of RPG, my favorite is probably Skyrim because it's it's less of a game and more of a simulation because you can just get sucked into that world. I have lost years of my life in that game.
Yeah, I can get that. I didn't get super into Skyrim, but when I really got into it was I got the PlayStation VR like shortly after it launched.
Oh,
My first games for that was Skyrim VR.
mm,
I hadn't played Skyrim before that, even though it'd been out for like 5, 6 years, something like that. But then when I saw that, oh, there's this giant, massive fantasy world that I can go into the game in a way, I was like, oh, I got to try that. And then I started getting into it.
yeah, I couldn't do Skyrim VR. I feel like I would just die of starvation in there.
Have you tried any other
Uh,
VR games?
I have like an Oculus Quest, so I played like Resi 4 VR, and I really enjoy that because I that was actually my first experience with Resident Evil 4 is the VR version. So it was kind of interesting that being my first experience in that game. Uh, but yeah, it translates really well to VR. I think because I'm not a big like survival horror game guy, but in VR it's basically just kind of a traditional first person shooter. Uh, and it's really fun in my opinion. So I do like VR. I think it's a platform with a lot of potential. Uh, but I think we do still have a little ways to go before it's like really, really viable as a mainstream gaming platform.
I totally agree. Like I was super excited about that PSVR when it came out, and I played a ton of it for a few months. But then after that, I was like, okay, the novelty's sort of wearing off. There's not a lot of big, exciting games for it. I think I'll wait till I dive into it again. Wait a few years.
Yeah.
So getting back to YouTube, what software do you use for your videos?
Um, I used to use when it comes to like editing. I used to use Sony Vegas up until very recently, where just out of nowhere it just started stuttering really bad. I'm still trying to figure out what exactly is wrong with it. Like it's become like almost unusable for some reason on my computer. So right now I'm using DaVinci Resolve, and it's a learning curve, but I actually really like it. It's like a free software, and as far as like free editing software goes, it's like everything you need.
I wonder if that Vegas thing, what do you know what version you were using?
Let me check. I don't know. I don't know where. I do. If you're gonna say if it's like an update or something, it might be. I might need like an update.
Yeah, because I think I've only used for on my channel two versions of Vegas over the entire lifetime of my channel, and I think I was having the same problem with an older version. And now I have 14, which seems to be doing well. I've been using that for like the last 5 years.
Okay, I might have to try to update it. Figure out how to do that.
Yeah, but I mean, if the Resolve is working for you, you might as well stick with that, I guess, right?
Yeah, I'm actually kind of enjoying using Resolve right now.
So how do you stay motivated to keep making videos? Because I know that's a challenge for a lot of us.
I'd like to ask you the same question.
I did.
'Cause,
I had like 2 years
uh,
where I just stopped making videos because I got so unmotivated. But now I some stuff happened at my day job. I had to leave it, and now it's like, okay, this is all I got. I gotta give it an honest to goodness try. Got to put all my effort into this and see if it works because I don't have a lot of backups left, you know?
yeah, because like right now my channel is in a bit of I'm in a bit of a slump when it comes to content right now. Uh and that's just because like I'm trying to focus more on like classes because I have been in college for about 8 years at this point, and like super early on, I didn't really take it seriously. I didn't really know what I was there for, and like now I've got to this point where I'm finally kind of taking it seriously. I'm finally trying to like I don't know. I've wasted so much money on this. I'm just trying to get through it because I've been in here way too long. So I'm just trying to focus more on that while still trying to make content at some kind of consistent rate. So, that's where I am right now. Just trying to balance that.
Are you majoring in like videography or anything related to that?
I'm currently majoring in digital media studies. So,
That's sort of what I went to school for. I got a bachelor's in visual arts.
mm.
Has audience feedback impacted your videos or what type of videos you make?
To some degree, I had a Halo Infinite video go semi-viral like last year, and so I decided to start making more Halo content on my channel as a response. Uh, and that has garnered kind of varying results because I've made a couple Halo videos. They do pretty decently, and then I ended up making a video about Marathon, kind of the sister series to Halo, and that video popped off. So at this point, sometimes you think, you know what, I don't know. It's one of those things where sometimes you get a good idea of what your audience wants, and sometimes you don't. It's it's hard to explain,
No, I
but
totally get it. And it doesn't help that like YouTube's if you go in the studio, it's like suggesting make a video on this, make a video on that, and you do that and it gets like 10 views. Yeah, Halo is one of those series that I really need to go back and play one of these days because I've played a little, I've dabbled in the multiplayer just at my friends' houses and stuff, but I've never actually sat down and tried the campaign. Are you a fan of both the single player campaign and the multiplayer in that?
I feel like I am more a fan of the single player to some degree. I am a massive Halo lore nerd. I love the universe of Halo. I think it's so fascinating. Like, I don't know, just that whole space opera about like, I think the Covenant is such a unique and interesting like alien force. We don't really get many like alien cults. Usually it's just like, oh, you have these big spooky invader guys and they're just like trying to, conquer Earth. And it's like, no, it's so much deeper than that. There is a religion here and it's a really in-depth religion. And you get the like this hierarchy. It's Halo's lore is so fascinating to me. It's so cool. So it's probably one of my favorite like it's probably one of my favorite like sci-fi franchises of all time. It's so interesting to me.
I gotta give it a try because just in my last podcast with the game statistic, he was like saying how big of a Halo fan he was. And yeah, definitely one of those series I got to get into. You used to be a pretty big advocator of the Amino app. Are you still active there?
No. Uh it's it's one of those things where it's just it's a dead platform. Uh, you know, I don't know. It's definitely a platform that was primarily targeted towards kids, and I felt like a I felt like I was running a daycare on there most of the time.
It would be nice if something like that would take off, though, maybe for an older crowd, because I feel like there are a lot of people in my position where we're just trying to have a voice for ourselves, but there's no like we just get drowned out in the giant wave of people trying to have a
Yeah,
voice for themselves.
yeah, and like I met a lot of really cool people on that app. Like probably I'm certain I've met like lifelong friends on that platform, but at the same time, gosh, most of it was just children.
Are any of the people from your podcast from that app?
Oh, they're my co-hosts on there. Yeah, they're all from Amino.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's cool. Can you tell me a little bit more about your podcast, how that got started, what it's been like recording for those?
Oh, chaotic in a word. Uh, we're kind of yeah. I started with uh two other co-hosts, and then they kind of they got a little bit too busy, and we kind of split. We kind of just we kind of split. Um, because it was originally the podcast was originally an Amino podcast. It was originally like a tie-in with the Amino that I owned. Um, and then we eventually when we kind of separated the podcast from the Amino, uh, I ended up kind of shopping around for new co-hosts. I stumbled across Jack and Spark, who were active members of the Amino. I was like, "Hey, you guys want to be on this podcast as like guests?" And we ended up just like really hitting it off. And I was like, "Okay, you know what? You guys are my co-hosts." Because they were just cool people. The podcast is just all about like just giving advice to small content creators, kind of talking about like different YouTube like news and stuff on the platform, but usually it's all about like trying to give people advice on how to grow, how to improve their content, uh, stuff like that. We used to like review content that people would send in to us, but we haven't gotten many submissions as of late. And the submissions that we do get are usually just, recurring viewers and stuff. So, but, you know, we still take submissions. It's hard to do the video review segment when we don't get many videos submitted for review.
I'm gonna have to submit one of my videos.
All right. All right, cool.
So how do you manage that doing the podcast, going to college, working on your main channel? That seems like a lot to manage.
It is. I don't know how I do it. When it comes to the podcast, it's actually pretty easy. We edit, we schedule podcasts. It's like a monthly podcast, or we try to make it a monthly podcast. But we edit podcasts in shifts, and we've kind of got to a formula where we are all always each one of us is individually editing one podcast each. So we feel like we've broken it down into a formula because we've recorded a bunch of podcasts, and now we are each individually editing a podcast that'll eventually come out. So I I feel like we've finally struck a balance with the podcast, so I can focus on so we can each also have enough time to focus on our own content as well.
Nice. Been playing any games lately?
I've been going back and I've finally gotten around to playing The Witcher 3.
Oh yeah, you like it?
I am absolutely hopelessly addicted. So I've been meaning to get into like the Witcher series for years, but I was kind of like in this position where I don't, when it comes to a series like that, I don't like to half-ass it. So I ended up reading a lot of the books beforehand and then playing the games. So that's why it took me so long to finally get around to playing The Witcher 3.
I feel like that's almost like what you have to do with that series. Like I went in blind and I did kind of half-ass it, and I had no idea what was going on, and I didn't care about any of the characters, and so I stopped playing after an hour. But I think if I go back into it, I got to do what you did and sort of like go all in.
Oh yeah, because like you do that, and like all of a sudden, like a random character that just shows up for like a couple quests, Dijkstra, all of a sudden you know exactly who this guy is, all of his exploits, his whole history with Geralt. You know that this guy has been like that they have a massive history that goes back like years and years and years. Uh, just these random characters, these random side characters, suddenly become these like pillars of the lore if you really read the books first and get into it.
Right. I got another loaded question for you. All-time favorite video game?
All-time favorite video game, Saints Row 2.
That was a quick answer.
Uh, it I've thought long and hard about this, and I just it's Saints Row 2. I feel like it's just as far as like open world sandbox games go, I feel like gameplay wise it hasn't aged well. But when it comes to story, when it comes to just the tone, it's it's like a playable Quentin Tarantino movie. Like it's so fun, and the lore and the story is just so interesting. I like the characters. I don't know. It sucks what happened to Volition because I really wish we had gotten another Saints Row 2.
So what do you think about what happened? Like, what was your opinion on 3 and 4 and then the newest one?
I feel like the series could have been salvaged after 3. Um, the problem because like if you play like the bad ending of Saints Row 3, where like Shandy dies, it feels like a scene straight out of Saints Row 2. It has that kind of vibe. Uh, and then Saints Row 4, it just doubled down because Saints Row 4 was not originally supposed to be Saints Row 4. It was supposed to be DLC for Saints Row 3. It was supposed to be a DLC called Enter the Dominatrix. But the thing is, Volition just had been acquired by a new company, Deep Silver, and Deep Silver is basically what EA was in like 2010.
Mm.
They are an incompetent corporation, and so they just decided, hey, we just acquired you. We need you to make a new game now, 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 now. So let's take this DLC that makes absolutely no sense within the lore, without just no sense whatsoever. It was just supposed to be a goofy one-off thing. Let's take this stupid superhero Matrix parody and make it the next Saints Row game. Let's make it Saints Row 4. And you know what? Writing wise, I actually think it's stronger than Saints Row 3. I actually think it's a really funny game. Like, as a game, I actually really like Saints Row 4. As a Saints Row game, it's a war crime. So,
Yeah.
it's just one of those things. And then you have Saints Row Get Out of Hell, which was just more Saints Row 4. And in that game, they decided, like, it's like Deep Silver. Saints Row could have, Volition and the Saints Row series could have recovered if Volition hadn't, or if Volition hadn't been acquired by Deep Silver, because Deep Silver just decided to just just not, what's the word, decided to just accentuate all of the problems that Saints Row 3 had and just make Saints Row this wacky fun time nonsense. Nothing is serious, and just erased everything that made Saints Row good. But yeah, Saints Row 2 is a phenomenal game, and it's a shame that they never made a sequel.
Did you play the reboot?
I walked into GameStop with my head hung low, the walk of shame in there, and muttering to the cashier, I'd like one copy of Saints Row 2022, and walking out having just wasted $60 on this game that I know is about to be the worst experience of my life. Yes, I bought that stupid, terrible game and I played it and I could not finish it.
Yeah.
It is the only Saints Row game. It is the only mainline Saints Row game that I never finished.
Yeah, I don't know a whole lot about it, but I heard a lot of bad things about it.
Yeah.
Do you have any other favorite series or games or genres even?
I think I like Sonic the Hedgehog. I've made quite a few videos on me being a fan of Sonic the Hedgehog. Sonic the Hedgehog is a recurring character in my videos. Um, but like every fan of Sonic the Hedgehog, I also hate Sonic the Hedgehog. So
Yeah, that's totally understandable. What's your favorite Sonic game?
it's kind of tough. I feel like I flip flop between Sonic Adventure 2, and Sonic Generations. I feel like Sonic Generations is probably my favorite. That's the one that I kind of say the most. It is the only good boost game, in my opinion. It just did it perfectly, where it almost feels like I, it's like a speedrunner's paradise. It is the only Sonic game where I've actually tried to get a better, where I actually try to get a better time each time. The level design is on point. It's just a fun game. I just really enjoy Sonic Generations.
I'd argue that half of Sonic Unleashed is a good boost game.
Okay, fair, yeah.
Yeah, I'm actually with you. Those are my two favorites too, Generations and Adventure 2. Particularly if you include the Unleashed mod for the PC version of Generations, because then it's like,
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
all these extra levels, best of both worlds.
Is it called Project Unleashed?
I think
That
so.
that 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 is the mod that made me realize, oh, Unleashed is actually fun if you get rid of all the stuff that's not fun.
Yep, exactly. It's kind of a touchy subject, but I actually thought that Project '06 made Sonic '06 kind of redeemable also.
It's redeemable, but it also it may it Project 06 is a hard game to talk about for me because I do think that it definitely makes Sonic 06 less bad. The problem is it also kind of shines a light on other things about Sonic 06 that are still bad that people never really talked about because there were worse things. And that being the level design just is not good. Just like I don't know, like you take away the bugs and all of a sudden like you kind of realize this is a good game, but it's still heavily flawed.
Mhm.
And like I have so much respect for Chaos X. I think he's such a talented like designer. The fact that he was able to fully remake Sonic 06 like that, I have a lot of respect for the guy, but it does kind of show that like even if this game was, polished, even if the rough edges were polished out, it's still, you know, a bit of a dull experience. I still enjoy it though. I still think, it's still impressive and it's still fun, but it does kind of show that like Sonic 06 was not going to be the ultimate Sonic game that it was kind of pushed as.
Since Adventure 2 is one of your favorites, I imagine you're a fan of like the music and the just the wackiness of it.
I I like shonen anime protagonist Sonic. I do enjoy the wackiness of it. Yeah,
So good. You have a favorite music track?
it's kind of I like Live and Learn. I like Live and Learn. It's a fun track.
It's hard to beat. What about music from other games? Do you have a favorite game soundtrack?
Oh gosh, I have quite a few. Marty O'Donnell from the composer of Halo. He's like a master. So I really like a lot of music from like Halo 2, Halo 3, but also anything composed by Yoko Shimomura is immediately on my list. So Kingdom Hearts, Final Fantasy 15. I like all of Yoko Shimomura's compositions. Street Fighter 2. Nobody knows that Yoko Shimomura also worked on Street Fighter 2. So
Oh, right. I
Guile's
didn't know that.
hers.
Favorite Kingdom Hearts game?
Kingdom Hearts 2, probably.
Same. What did you think about Kingdom Hearts 3? Because that one was kind of polarizing.
Gosh, that is a tough one for me to talk about because like I think it's good. I considered making a video that compared Kingdom Hearts 3 to like Avengers Endgame because I feel like they both had to do the same thing, but I feel like they both accomplished it in different ways. Where you have like a decade of like media building this thing up, and you have to tie up all of these loose ends in a really concise way. And I feel like, ironically, considering how many more Marvel movies there are, and considering how much shorter a movie is compared to a game, I think Avengers Endgame tied up all the loose ends of the MCU way better than Kingdom Hearts 3 did with Kingdom Hearts. Uh, I don't know. I mean, it was also just like, why did we need like Roxas and Shion to come back? I feel like it kind of invalidated Lee's character arc, bringing them back. And I've had so many arguments with like 358 fans about that. And I feel like, I don't know, you say that to someone who's like really big fan of 358, and they make you feel like they make you feel like a jerk for saying that. But like,
I'm a big fan of 358, and I agree with you.
okay, good. Uh,
As much as I love Roxas as a character, he did not need to come back. I felt like that was the whole point of introducing Ventus. It's like, why bring back this character that looks exactly like Roxas if you're gonna bring back Roxas too?
yeah, because like I think like Birth by Sleep is a game that like you want to see those characters come back. You want to see because like their fates were so tragic. You want to see them kind of get closure. And like, but like the thing about Roxas and Shion is they already had closure. So bringing them back makes less sense than bringing back the Birth by Sleep cast.
Yeah, and the Birth by Sleep cast had a reason to come back. Like they still had unfinished business. They had to take care of all that Xehanort nonsense, get back together.
Yeah,
Whereas Roxas and Shion like weren't even supposed to exist in the first place. I guess maybe that was the point they were trying to make is like, oh, even if they weren't supposed to exist, they should still exist. But I don't know,
yeah.
kind of cop
I,
out.
I, I think that's what they were doing. It was like a life is a life, like that sort of thing. But I don't know. Just I don't know. It didn't hit on an emotional chord with me the same way that Kingdom Hearts 2 did.
Yeah, and it doesn't help that like the last fifth of the game all takes place in this like bland desert area.
Yeah. Which like it had that's the thing though, is like it kind of had to all take part in the Keyblade graveyard because like that was what was built up as like the final battleground. But even then, like it could have done something more with it.
Yeah. Yeah, because the first half of the game I thought was excellent. Like it felt just like Kingdom Hearts 2. They were like building up all this cool, interesting stuff, and then it just sort of fell off the deep end. I thought.
Yeah.
Have your tastes in games changed at all over the years?
I used to be way more into shooters than I am now. Nowadays, like I used to be way more into multiplayer games, just in general. I used to be, I don't know, nowadays, like the only multiplayer game that I play anymore is Halo. The only shooter that I play anymore nowadays is Halo, and like occasionally Call of Duty for the nostalgia. But like nowadays, I play way more platformers and RPGs.
Speaking of platformers, you have a favorite Mario game?
Probably Odyssey. I don't know. I'm not as big. I'm not as big on Mario as I am on like Sonic or Spyro.
Ooh, I love Spyro. Okay, I went down this with Cran Time, but I'm gonna have to go down it with you too. What'd you think of the Reignited trilogy?
Liked it. I mean, I liked it. I liked it. I don't have much to say on it. I think I don't know. I thought the aesthetics were fun. I didn't really have I didn't really consider because once again I listened to the Cran Time one. Uh and I didn't really consider like the differences of like the character designs and all that. I don't know. I liked the aesthetics and everything.
Did you like it better, worse, the same?
I don't know. I don't have really. I don't know. I'm very neutral when it comes to it. I don't really have much opinions on it one way or the other. It's Spyro. I thought it was fun. That's about it.
What's your favorite of the Spyro games?
I don't know if I have a favorite because I grew up on. It's funny. I didn't even really grow up on the trilogy. My first Spyro game was Enter the Dragonfly. So I don't even know why I like Spyro to begin with. I don't know how that even happened. But then I played like Hero's Tale. I didn't really go back to playing the original trilogy until I was in like high school. Is
Wow.
why I don't know. I think my favorite is probably the original. It's simple. It's simple. It's basic. A baby could play it, but it's just fun, simple platforming fun. I know it's not like the most advanced of all of them. I know there's definitely better ones, but like I just like the simplicity of the original.
It is really hard to choose one. I think ultimately my favorite is two, just because I kind of like the new characters that it introduces, and the cutscenes are kind of fun and the music's good. But one is easily like just either right below it or almost on the same level. I don't know. It's hard to say. You're right. I forgot earlier. I wanted to ask you when you mentioned the MCU, getting away from games for a bit. Do you have a favorite Marvel movie?
Probably Captain America: The First Avenger. I'm a big fan of like that retro futurism type thing. So that kind of steampunk World War II thing. It kind of reminds me of like Wolfenstein, the new Wolfenstein games, kind of a little bit. I don't know. I just always thought that that movie was like really cool and interesting looking. Um, I don't know, like Captain America in general for a while was like my favorite of the MCU characters.
For a while. What's your favorite now?
I don't know who my favorite MCU character is now. My favorite Marvel character in general is Spider-Man. I don't know. I've never been as big on Marvel as I am on DC.
Oh yeah.
So
But you are a fan of both. Usually it's one or the other with people. Since you're more of a DC fan, are you one of the people that fell off the Marvel bandwagon after Endgame?
yeah, I feel like after Endgame, my mentality became, before then I gotta keep up. I gotta keep up. I gotta stay, in the know about like what's going on because I want Endgame to feel, impactful. After Endgame, my mentality just became, okay, it's over. Now I'm just gonna watch. If they keep making these movies, I'm just gonna watch whatever looks interesting to me. And nothing really looked interesting to me outside of like Spider-Man. And when I found out that Sam Raimi was gonna direct Multiverse of Madness, I watched that, and that was about it.
Did you like that one?
Multiverse of Madness is a hard movie to talk about for me because like there are moments of Sam Raimi isms in that movie because like I am a big fan of like Sam Raimi outside of his Spider-Man movies. I'm legitimately a big fan of Sam Raimi. I like Darkman, I like Evil Dead, I like a lot of his movies. And that movie has a lot of little homages to like Evil Dead and stuff like that, and like it kind of felt more like the beginning of the movie with like Doctor Strange fighting the big monster, it felt very kind of golden age superhero-y, and which felt more a lot like what I would imagine a Sam Raimi Doctor Strange movie becoming. And then after a while, it just kind of became just kind of made by committee, you know, MCU movie. It felt like Raimi didn't have as much creative freedom as he should have for that movie, which is disappointing.
Do you have any upcoming games or movies that you're looking forward to?
Super Mario RPG, the remake. Really excited for that. And then Cyberpunk Phantom Liberty. Not a game, it's a DLC, but still, I think that expansion looks really interesting.
Was gonna ask you about that earlier because you said that you're a fan of cyberpunk stuff. What did you think of cyberpunk?
Uh, when it first came out, it was borderline unplayable, and I put it down with the promise of picking it back up in a year. And then I did, and then I put it back down and said I would pick it back up in another year. And when I finally picked it back up, I went, "Oh, wait a minute. This is fun now." And now it's like probably one of my favorite it's probably one of my favorite games now.
Nice.
It's fun, I don't know, it's so I- have become I've become an edge runner, you know. I love I've fallen in love with like the lore of Cyberpunk now. I kind of want to find some people to run the tabletop game now, Cyberpunk Red, uh, just because I want to really get involved in it.
Didn't even know there was a tabletop game. Do you play any other tabletop games?
No, I don't. I've been wanting to get into D&D, but I've never been able to find a group of people who I don't know. I'm fairly antisocial, so I don't I feel a little bit embarrassed if I were to get into a D&D group as the newbie who's never played D&D before. I feel like it would just be a little bit. I don't know. I don't like being the newbie.
Have you played Baldur's Gate?
Uh, I have not yet. No.
That might be a good way to get into it because the game sort of, even if you're a newbie, the game does everything for you. So like you don't have to worry about not knowing all the intricacies, all the rules and everything. You just kind of go along with it.
Oh yeah, I've heard that it's that it's basically just D&D as a video game. I've played Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance, and that's as close as I've gotten to playing Baldur's Gate.
Three is
Which
actually my first one. What is Alliance a spin-off game or
Dark Alliance is it's like an action RPG hack and slash game. It's nothing like mainline Baldur's Gate. It's more like Diablo.
got it? Was that one any good?
It's fun. It's way more basic than the mainline games, to my knowledge.
Do you have any advice that you'd like to give to other creators, other YouTubers, other gamers in general?
Give up. No, find your passion. You know, find your passion, and keep doing that until you hate it, and then find another passion and hope that your audience latches onto it.
I like it. I think that's good advice. Is there anything else you'd like to plug before we wrap up here?
I'm working on a couple of different videos that I hope will come out someday eventually in the near or distant future. So, look out for more content, and that's about it.
All right, sounds good. Well, thanks for coming on. It was nice talking with you.
All right.